We're live. Yay! It must have been a dead spot right here. Anyways, hi! I am so excited to share with you a really cool story about how I healed my torn hamstring. So I've really enjoyed doing the lives over the last couple of days. Well, this will only be the third one, but talking about my story, helping you get to know me a little bit more and how I got into everything and a little bit about my own journey. So I'm holding my crystal because I'm obsessed with it. And I wanted to start off by telling you a little bit about what I was doing when I tore my hamstring, why I was doing what I was doing, and what I was leading up towards. So for those of you who are new in the group, throughout last year, I was training very, very intensely leading up to my first race since having Ollie. So moving back even more, if you haven't watched the previous videos, I was training full-time as a runner before I moved to France. And then after I had my son, I decided that I really wanted to run again and I wanted to see what my body was capable of after having my son. So I ended up running a few personal bests, which is like a record, after having Ollie and proving to myself that I could do it, doing a minimal training that was more effective and using more of my mind strength over my body strength to get me where I wanted to go. Because I hadn't changed anything physically. I wasn't as strong as I used to be physically, but I was a lot stronger mentally, and that was what gave me the edge to give me the really cool new records that I ran. So then throughout that process, I kind of couldn't give up on my running sort of thing. Even though my goal was different, it was just to see what I could do with tapping into my mind. I didn't have the same goals as what I did before Ollie, but that was the most exciting part, was to see where my mind could actually take me. And so I just want to share one other story about visualization and how I actually use the power of meditation and visualization to run a really big personal best in one of my, it was probably two of my runs. And I was physically ready, but I had a lot of self-doubt. So this was before I had Ollie. I was leading up to a 1 kilometer time trial, which is, for those of you who know my distances, it was like 100, 200 and 400. So 1 kilometer time trial is super long for anything that I'm used to. So it was a really big mental stretch to push myself for that long. And so leading up to it, I was absolutely nailing every single session. I'm quite consistent with everything that I do. So I would know the exact times that I have to cross every single 100 meters if I want to get a specific time, a total time. So what I did leading up to my time trial, every single night, I would do my meditation, which is what sometimes I take you through this, which is where I'm sitting in a calm, peaceful space and I'm focusing on my breath. So I bring myself back to my inhales and my exhales and I start to count those. So when I was in that state, once I had already got into that state, then I focused on my training program. So I would literally sit there, probably, I don't know how long it would take, maybe 10 to 20 minutes. And I would go through the plan of attack if I wanted to get a specific time for this run. So I ended up calculating what times I needed to cross every single 100 meters or every single 200 meters in order for me to get a record. So then what I did was, while I was in the visualized state, I would literally run it in my head and I would practice different plans. So I might have practiced between 3 and 4 different plans. So plans meaning just different ideas on how I could run this. And I just practiced it until I felt like I had nailed it. And then when I did the last one, I felt like it was so comfortable and it was so natural that by the time I'd actually done the last one, I had run 3 minutes and 38 seconds. And I'd never really seen a time cross in my mind before, but this was the first time that I did that, and that was through the visualization. So I had crossed all the times I wanted to cross. And then on the last one, when I crossed the line, I looked down at my watch and it said 3 minutes 38. And now this is in my visualization, okay? And so I was super excited. I let myself feel those emotions on how amazing I really felt. And then the following morning, I had my time trial. And I think before that, I had already done 4 rounds at 4 minutes. So then my last one was my time trial. And so I knew the times I had to cross, which meant it gave me purpose and it also gave me something else to focus on. So even though I was finding it hard, I had something else to focus on, which was the times that I had to cross every time I crossed the 200. And then when I crossed the finish line, guess what time I ran? 3 minutes 37, 1 second lower than what I had visualized. And I don't know where that time had originally come from because I didn't know what I could run. But that really proved to me in that moment, holy shit, my mind is so powerful. If I can keep on visualizing it like that to the point where it feels so real in my mind, because your subconscious mind doesn't really understand the difference between reality and visualized state. So what my coach used to encourage me to do every time I was injured and I couldn't run, he would say, well, you can still run in your mind, just lie down and run. And I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. So then I would complete all of my week's program lying down in a meditative state. So then I would still be firing my muscles as if I was actually outside running. So that's what happens with the subconscious mind, is if you're, say, running in your head, the subconscious mind is going to fire up the little muscle fibers because it thinks like it is outside. And so if you want a cool story, look up Elisa Camplin, who was an Olympic ski jumper, if I'm correct, and she broke her back maybe a month or 6 weeks before the Olympics, and this was for the Winter Olympics, and she visualized every single day her jumps that she had to do, and then she ended up recovering very, very fast, and she won gold. And I think that was another thing that had given me so much more belief in the power of visualization, was from really cool stories like that. So anyways, leading on to my current story. So last year I was training really, really well, and I was kicking butt in my training. And my coach ended up deciding to challenge me and say, you're going to compete at Christmas. And I was scared, and I was like, holy shit, okay, I guess we'll do it to see where I'm at, even though it was a grass race, which means times don't really matter. So it was maybe 2 months before the race that we had decided that I was going to run, because I was getting close to my peak form. And then maybe 6 weeks before we were going to be racing, I was in the gym doing some heavy lifting, and I felt a little twinge, but I didn't think anything of it. And then it just started to niggle on. And then it started to bother me more when I was running, but it wasn't a pain. Something just felt weird. That's the exact word I can say to you, is it just felt weird. If it was sudden pain, I would have stopped, but something just felt strange. And I didn't know what it was, so I just kept on going to the point that I could. And then I started reducing my load because it was starting to bother me more. So then I ended up going to the doctors, and I probably left it a little bit too long because I didn't know what to do at that moment. So then I went to the doctor, and he did a little scan, and it was like a 3 or 4 centimeter tear. So it's about, is that about 3 or 4 centimeters? Something like that. So it was actually quite decent, and it looked like a spider. I'll have to find the photo of it because I have posted it on here before. And he said, and you're supposed to be competing soon. And I was like, yeah, I'm supposed to be competing at Christmas. And he kind of looked at me and shrugged his shoulders and sort of like rolled his eyes and was like, well, you can sort of chuck that to the side because that's not going to happen. And I was like, whatever. I didn't really think anything of it because I thought either way, I'm going to find a way to compete. Because I've waited how many years to compete again? It's been like 4 years. And so when he said that, I just said, okay, so what can I do? And how can I manage it? And he said, reduce your load, no running for like 3 or so weeks, do nothing that hurts it. You want to avoid stuff for a while and then start building back into it. So that's what I ended up doing. And I'll give you a little example. So if you're in complete speed work, which is when you're going really, really fast, and you go from that to nothing, that's actually probably one of the worst things that you can do. You sort of want to decrease your speed and your load so you can taper off, so it's not a sudden stop and a shock for your body, because your body is so conditioned to working at a particular rate. But because of injury, sometimes that's what happens. So then sometimes when you do have that amount of time off because your body isn't used to having that load off, it can be a bit of a struggle when you get back into it. So then I decided to try and do some running in my mind. But the first thing, I just had this strange idea that I had to heal my hamstring. And so I contacted an amazing healer who I really am inspired by, and I asked him for some advice, and he told me to send some particular colors. Ask my guides. So if you don't like woo-woo, then stop listening. But this is the truth, and this is exactly what I did to heal myself, and I encourage all of you to believe in your body's ability to heal itself. So he encouraged me to send purple, green, gold, and maybe silver healing light to my injury. And he told me to ask for my specific guides to help protect the area and to also help the area heal. And he could feel that it would be okay. And so I believed him, and I also believed in the ability of myself, because I have done really powerful visualization before. So what I ended up doing, I was really determined. I had no, I knew that I was going to compete. Injury or no injury, I knew that I was going to compete. So it was more, I was already set in stone that I was doing it, and nothing was going to stop me. So every night before I went to bed, I think I ended up getting my amethyst stone, and I was rubbing it, not on it, but like this, up and down the injury site. And I could feel the pulling. If you've worked with crystals, you'll know what I mean, but I could feel like a pulling sensation along the injury site when I was doing this. And I would do that for a little while, and then I would give it a little bit of Reiki, because I do Reiki. And I also ended up having this strange idea, which is what I believe was the nail on the head, to paint my injury in my visualization with all the colors that my friend had given me. So with my eyes closed, I got myself in a calm, meditative state. And I imagined that I had this big paintbrush, okay? So say this is my paintbrush and this is my leg. So let's just say that my injury is a line along here. And I had this idea that I would have, this is my paintbrush, and I would just have all the different paint colors, and I'll start off with purple, and I would paint up and down, and then I would get the blue paint, and I would paint up and down on the injury site, and then I would get the gold, up and down, and then I'll get the green and up and down. And I could really, really strongly in my mind visualize what my injury looked like, and it just looked like an open cut at the back of my leg. And every time I would paint up and down with all the different colors and send it some love and light and ask for my guides, every day I could literally see it closing. That's what I can explain to you. I can't go deeper because that's exactly how I would describe it. So it was literally, I could see an open wound. If my eyes were closed, I could see an open wound here, and I would have my paintbrush, and then I would go over it with the different colors that I was told to use, and I would just keep going over it until I could see it close up a little bit. And I did this every day, and maybe it was about 3 weeks before we went back to Australia. So every day for 3 weeks. And probably by the end of each week, I could see a dramatic decrease in the size of the wound. And then just before we got on the plane to go, I could see that it just looked like a little dot left. And I knew that I was pretty much ready to go. So that was about 3 weeks. And I hadn't run yet. I was just in the gym and on the bike. And all I was doing was my visualization every day. And then when we arrived in Australia, maybe it was a few days after we arrived, so I'd probably been doing this for about 3 to 4 weeks. And then I saw my coach and we went straight into a 90% speed session. Now, I hadn't run, mind you, in about 5 weeks, and I was shitting my pants because I thought that I would tear it again. And I was really nervous. I know the doctor didn't agree with me. The physio was wishing me luck, and he was giving me some strengthening exercises, and he was like, I don't know if this is possible, but have a go. And where was I going with this? Yes, and then so we went straight into a 90% speed session, and my coach was just, I blew his mind. He was like, holy wow, I've never seen you run like this in my life, and I've coached you for 7 years. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like I tore my hamstring. I haven't run in like 5 weeks, and I just like killed it. And I didn't pull up sore. My hamstring was fine. Nothing was an issue from that moment onwards. I competed. I ran really bad because I felt really sick on the day, and that's okay because I still did it. And that was my goal, was to do it. But I got there because of my strong belief in myself that I could heal myself, and that visualization that I did was so powerful. And I truly believe in the power of your mind. So this is probably longer than I expected, but if you're watching the replay, I would love to hear your thoughts about this, not really story because it's a real story, but you know what I mean. I'd love to hear your feedback, and if you've ever done anything like this before, or if you would like to learn how to do something like this for yourself, I would love to teach you. If there's an area of your body or anything like that that you would like some help to send some love and light and healing to, I'd love to help. So that is my really super cool healing story, and so now I love to do that sort of stuff. So I'm going to go and have some food because I've just come back from the gym. I'm currently injured again, so my Achilles, so I've been using my crystal quartz and my amethyst stone as well, but I know that it's not physical. This one is very mental for me, so I'm focusing more on the mindset aspect than the physical. Sometimes you'll get a really strong, what's the word? Not a gut feeling, but you'll sort of get a feeling of, if you are in tune enough with yourself, you'll get a strong enough feeling as to what your injury could be about. So the hamstring one, I knew that was actually physical, it wasn't mental, whereas a lot of my injuries are just from a mental, like upper limit sort of issue, that once I work through that, then it goes away. And then I can go straight back into whatever I was doing without any issues. So I believe that that's exactly what's happening right now. So that's what I'm focusing on, is my mental aspect rather than my healing of like using crystals and stuff aspect. So that's all for me on this lovely Tuesday. Sending lots of love and positivity for the rest of your day. And I look forward to hearing any feedback from this really cool story. All right, bye girls.